Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Fusion Deck User in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 121, The Liberating Strike. My turn, draw. Hikaru drew a card and glanced at it. Utterly crush me? Upon hearing Hikaru's words, Morishima couldn't help but laugh like he had just heard a joke. Do you even understand what that means? He raised his hand and pointed at the massive Hamon beside him. Hamon is one of the strongest monster cards. Its power can make any spirit submit. In this entire Union dimension, no machine can rival Hamon. Are you saying you can accomplish what an entire dimension couldn't? Ha! Hikaru sighed inwardly and chuckled at his words. Union, those machines, huh? He could already picture it, how Morishima fought those robots and used Hamon to crush them. As one of the top-tier cards, maybe the sacred beasts are a bit embarrassing among the top bosses, but to ordinary spirits, they are still overwhelming in strength. Moreover, the machines in this dimension can't stand up to the power of the sacred beasts. Even though that doesn't mean the machines here are doomed to lose in a duel. If Hikaru had ABC, VW, or XYZ type monsters, he felt like he could slam Hamon down with ease. Spirits are spirits. Card power is card power. Besides, as far as I know, your strongest monster is just the 4400 attack ultimate ancient gear golem, right? Morishima folded his arms and laughed wildly. How are you supposed to defeat me with that? How to defeat you? Hikaru glanced at his hand and smiled faintly. Hikaru, he's right. Tiara looked a bit troubled. Your hand's all green cards. This might be hard, right? Hard? Heh, not at all. Hikaru pointed to the graveyard and suddenly shouted, I activate the effect of duality in the graveyard. During my main phase, I can banish it from your graveyard, then target one light and one dark monster in my graveyard, shuffle both into the deck, then draw one card. Hikaru raised his dual disc as the graveyard cards rotated and displayed automatically. I return Elemental Hero Prisma and Winda from my graveyard to the deck. Then I draw one card. Hikaru shuffled the cards back into the deck and extra deck, then drew a card. Got it. Seeing the golden monster, Hikaru's eyes lit up. His original goal could now be fulfilled. You returned Winda, huh? Heh, I knew it. Refusing to fuse was the right call. Despite half his body already being demonized, Morishima still retained a large degree of reason and composure. Hikaru shrugged. Then I activate the continuous spell, Brilliant Fusion. This card can only be activated once per turn. When activated, I send fusion materials listed on a Gem Knight fusion monster from my deck to the graveyard, then fusion summon one fusion monster from my extra deck, but its attack and defense become 0. Wait, Hikaru, you don't have any Gem Knight cards in your hand. You can't summon Zirconia without them, right? Don't need them. Hikaru's eyes narrowed as he shouted, I will prove it head-on, with the simplest, most direct, and purest power. That I can defeat my enemies head-on. I send Gem Knight Crystal and Gem Knight Sapphire from my deck to the graveyard. Fusion materials, a Gem Knight monster and a rock monster. Gentle Sapphire of Serenity, Diamond of Unity and Friendship. Now, at this moment, become one, and step into a new realm. Fusion summon, Gem Knight Zirconia. Captain Crystal appeared on the field, with Sapphire swirling around him. Countless rocks detached from Crystal and merged into Sapphire's body, finally forming a knight clad in Crystal's armor, yet even larger and more muscular. Gem Knight Zirconia, Level 8 Earthrock 2900 ATK. Gem Knight Zirconia, ATK, 2900. Due to Brilliant Fusion's effect, its ATK decreased to 0. Ha 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 ha. Putting a monster with 0 attack in attack position? Hikaru, you really have gone insane. He waved a hand and laughed loudly. A monster with only 0 attack, how could it ever defeat the invincible Hamon? Hikaru chuckled. He looked off to the side, at the wall, as if seeing through it to another duel happening elsewhere. On the far end of the hangar, a student from our academy, from the Obelisk Blue Dorm, accepted a challenge to complete a dual spirits trial using only monsters with 500 or less attack. Maybe not even 500. Maybe they're all just 0. Ha! Morishima was dumbfounded. That's impossible. No way that can work. I believe he can do it. Morishima raised an eyebrow. It sounded like utter nonsense. He had dueled those spirits before, and even if they couldn't defeat him, using only monsters with 500 or less, or even 0 attack. No way. Doesn't matter. Either way, you and that guy are both going down in this world. Is that so? Hikaru offered no rebuttal. I activate the effect of Evil Hero Adusted Gold in my hand by discarding it. I add 1 Dark Fusion or 1 card that specifically lists it from my deck to my hand, except another Adusted Gold. Hikaru tossed the monster away. This card was given to him by Jaden after they fought the Shadow Riders together and faced the Golden Spirit, though he'd never had the chance to use it until now, and it had been lying dormant in his deck. I add Dark Calling to my hand. A dark aura surged into the brightly lit room, clinging to his hand. Dark Calling, could it be that flaming winged demon? But you don't have its fusion materials in the graveyard. Then. Fusion materials, 1 fiend monster and 1 rock monster. Hikaru's eyes widened as he raised Dark Calling. I activate the spell card Dark Calling. I banish monsters from my hand or graveyard as fusion materials, then fusion summon 1 fusion monster that can only be summoned with Dark Fusion. I banish Gemnite Crystal and Evil Hero Adusted Gold from my graveyard. Using these 2 monsters for fusion, witness the anti-hero who commands the power of darkness. Crush everything. Fusion summon. He clapped his hands in front of him. Shattered rocks, broken debris, the corpses of spirits, everything seemed to lose gravity and twist in place. A hero born from inner darkness. Evil Hero Dark Gaia. Dark Gaia was an evil hero clad in rock armor with bat-like wings. He floated in mid-air, facing Hamon directly. Though they looked different, they were built almost identically. Evil Hero Dark Gaia, level 8 Earth Fiend ATK? Dark Gaia's attack is the combined attack of the fusion materials, which means 4,550. F4,550. Morishima staggered back. How is that possible? That attack. It surpasses even the legendary Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Nothing is impossible. This is the power created by our Academy's new generation, so different from yours. Ugh. Morishima winced. Even so, even if you restore Zirconia's attack to 2900, I still have life points left. He quickly did the math, estimating how much LP he had remaining. No! Hikaru shouted. This was my goal from the start. Red light flared behind him, his eyes flashing. I activate the equip spell Spirit Illusion. Ah! Morishima's eyes widened in horror. No way, you can't. How could you do this to the unbeatable Hamon? Spirit Illusion can only be equipped to a fiend or zombie fusion monster. Not only does it enable fusion summoning, but when attacking, it reduces the opponent's monster's attack by the equipped monster's attack. That's 4,550 points. It's too late. Hikaru shouted. Battle! Dark Gaia, set it free. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Dark Gaia leapt forward, facing Hamon as black mist erupted from its body and wrapped around Hamon. Hamon let out a pained shriek, its attack rapidly plummeting. As its attack fell, brilliant white lights burst from its body, flying behind Hikaru, into shattered mechanical shells, or directly into cards. And along with them came countless voices. Thank you. Much appreciated. Forever grateful. Some lights even flew out of this dimension, off to unknown worlds. The machine-type spirits in the lab began to recover as their worn, damaged shells were instantly renewed and restored, gleaming as if newly forged. No! You can't do this! Morishima screamed hysterically, running toward Hamon. Those were the hard-earned souls of extra-dimensional spirits. Too late. Right then, Hamon's attack was already 0. Yet, instead of showing anger, Hamon looked ecstatic. It opened its mouth and laughed, shattering the ice on its body, and voluntarily collided with Dark Gaia. Ugh. Chunks of ice smashed into Morishima. This once calm duelist could no longer keep his composure and rushed at Hamon, only worsening the impact. As if intentionally, Hamon hurled itself into him. Ah! Morishima, LP, 1800. Hikaru punched the ground in victory. Beautiful. Victory, rescuing all the spirits, was his true goal. Otherwise, why would he have provoked Morishima into summoning the sacred beast? And now, he had succeeded beyond expectations. Chapter 122, Super Polymerization will give you the answer. Rumble. With the sacred beast collapsing, Morishima was crushed beneath its massive body, his already battered form finally falling into unconsciousness. Hikaru waved the smoke away and walked forward through the rubble. How is this possible? Even the commander lost? The Union doctor's face turned pale with fear. He fell to the ground, flailing his arms and legs in panic. In his memory, Commander Morishima could overcome any enemy with ease. He scrambled to his feet. That's when he noticed that the robot spirits around them had slowly begun operating again. Terror surged in his heart. Because Hamon's attack had dropped to 0, all the energy and life force it absorbed from the spirits had returned to their rightful owners. Which meant he still didn't understand what these machine card spirits really were. They were mechanical, dismantled by his hands, yet still had life. When their life force was returned, even broken shells and shattered gears could regenerate and renew themselves, transforming into pristine machines, as if freshly assembled. No, this wasn't the time to be thinking about that. The Union doctor's expression changed. He had disassembled those mechanical spirits. Now that they had regained their vitality, they would surely come after him. That couldn't happen. He still had research to do. With that thought, he scrambled up and reached for the nearby lever. However, as his hand landed on it, he realized that no matter how hard he pushed, even using both hands and leaping down on it, it wouldn't budge. He looked closely and saw that the lever was entangled in purple puppet strings wrapped lightly around the handle, seemingly easy to break, but despite that, no matter how hard he pulled, he couldn't snap them. There could be only one reason. This thing belonged to that spirit beside Hikaru. Panic hit him instantly. Meanwhile, Hikaru had already made his way through the wreckage and reached Morishima. No. It didn't seem like unconsciousness at all. His life force was absorbed by the sacred beast, Tiara said with a single glance. Well versed in reincarnation, she quickly explained to Hikaru, the summoning of a sacred beast comes at a price. Until now, he had sustained the use of the card by sacrificing the lives of the spirits in this lab. She glanced back and added, the ordinary fusion soldiers, too. I see. Following her gaze, Hikaru looked over and then shook his head. This wasn't true death. They had simply been temporarily absorbed by the sacred beast's spirit. As long as their bodies didn't rot, if the sacred beast ever released their souls, they could come back to life. Of course, that would require someone kind enough to do so. They may not all have been evil people, still, based on Morishima's behavior, he certainly hadn't just been brainwashed. Morishima was calm, precise, and rational. He knew exactly what he was doing, sacrificing spirits to fuel his climb upward using the sacred beast card. He wanted to become a general, a superior human who could enslave spirits and humans alike. Someone like that, Hikaru had no reason to pity. He stepped to Morishima's side, fanned away the surrounding smoke again, knelt down, removed the dual disc from his arm, and carefully picked up the scattered cards. Detaching the deck, monster, and spell/trap zones, he shuffled the cards together, skimming through them fast. It was different from Kanbayashi's case. Kanbayashi had prepared in advance to assassinate, so after he lost the duel, his cards had become scrap, clearly temporary replicas, especially the Sacred Phoenix, which shattered after one use. Be that as it may, this was different. Morishima's deck used the spirits of this dimension real, forcibly controlled cards. Even though Hamon wasn't the original, unlike Kanbayashi's test copies, this one wasn't just for experimentation. From its appearance, this was a legitimate card. However, Hikaru could feel it. Hamon's spirit had already left this card. Because the replication quality was higher than before, the card could briefly summon Hamon, just like how Hikaru's Flame Swordsman could appear across different Flame Swordsman cards. Hamon, as a sacred beast, could manifest even through replicas. Even so, that wasn't important. Hikaru could hardly command the true sacred beast either. His real goal was to liberate the spirits trapped inside Hamon, and he could sense it. Hamon had clearly chosen. Rather than devour greedy fusion soldiers to its content, it preferred not to be forcefully controlled at all. So this card had been perfectly under shackles. This sacred beast is surprisingly considerate, Tiara nodded. Even if it were shattered, it wouldn't matter, but having the full card saves us a lot of trouble. Hikaru nodded. Just as he was thinking that, his chest suddenly grew hot, and his arm began to tingle. The Hamon card in his hand suddenly emitted a blinding electric light. Question mark. Simultaneously, a red glow shone from the spare deck box on his belt. What was going on? Before Hikaru could make sense of it, a card shot out from his deck, and from the spare deck, a burst of flame surged like a fire dragon. His hand loosened slightly, and Hamon floated up into the air. 3 cards formed a triangle, spinning in midair. Uria, Lord of Searing Flames. Hamon, Lord of Striking Thunder. Hex-sealed fusion? No, wait, don't. Hikaru suddenly felt like he was back a year ago, when his Ancient Gear Golem and 2 other cards fused into Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. Whoa, such power, Tiara blinked in awe. So these 3 demons weren't that weak after all. As a divine being, she had never seen a divine-level fusion before. Seeing it now was truly astounding. So the third sacred beast must be a dark attribute fiend? Hikaru shrugged and nodded. Most likely. He knew what the third sacred beast was. The strongest of the sacred beasts, Raviel, Lord of Phantasms, a dark fiend monster. And the 3 sacred beasts could fuse. That would be the true form of the sacred beasts, the ultimate one, Armityle the Chaos Phantom. He had considered whether his sacred beast cards might one day fuse into Armityle under super polymerization. But he thought it would only happen after he got Raviel. Never expected this. Hikaru rubbed his head. After the whirlwind ceased, the 3 cards descended. Hikaru caught them. They had become a single card, emitting only a faint purple glow. Just like Winda earlier, no, even more incomplete. Well, this card will probably take a long time to mature. Losing the Hex-sealed fusion wasn't a surprise. Hikaru had long prepared for that. In exchange, he now had Armityle the Chaos Phantom. With this card, he would never have to fear any sacred beast again. Because now, he was their master. Chapter 123, Don't call me about cursed seal beasts right now. To be honest, if Hikaru were allowed to choose, he would definitely prefer to keep his universal fusion material. But having come this far relying on super polymerization, he had long since accepted that super polymerization would randomly fuse him a stronger card. Although in terms of pure card strength, Hikaru believed the dark Hex-sealed fusion was far more significant to him than Armityle the Chaos Phantom. That said, if you considered other aspects, like combat power, then Armityle wasn't bad at all. If nothing else, it at least helped keep Tiara, who always wanted him to do something big, a little more restrained. And besides? Hikaru had already contacted Professor Growler. King of the Swamp, the dark Hex-sealed fusion, the more the merrier. If he could get more of them, it naturally meant he could draw them. Of course, he was actively acquiring them. These kinds of cards meant far more to Hikaru. After all, this kind of universal fusion material was like the very philosopher's stone of alchemy, but for fusion. Hikaru had long since prepared for the possibility that the dark Hex-sealed fusion would get fused away via super polymerization, so inherently, he'd already started sourcing more. King of the Swamp might be somewhat rare, but the dark Hex-sealed fusion wasn't all that expensive. He could still afford it. Then again, I still really want Phantom of Fury. Armityle the Chaos Phantom didn't only have one form, there was also Armityle the Chaos Phantasm, Phantom of Fury, which could hand over its control to the opponent, then banish all cards on its side of the field at the end of the turn. It's referring to the gifted opponent. Since the effect was considered activated by self, many one-sided immunity monsters couldn't stop it and would be banished directly. After banishing itself, it could let the original owner special summon an Armityle the Chaos Phantom from the extra deck, ignoring summoning conditions. Compared to the standard Armityle, which only gains 10,000 attack on your own turn, this form was powerful on all fronts. Obviously, Hikaru wasn't in a rush. Just like Flame Swordsman and Dark Flare Knight had potential evolutions, even Armityle the Chaos Phantom likely had more to show. Hikaru sighed slightly and pocketed the 2 cards, then flipped through Morishima's deck. Beep beep ZZT. As he went through the deck, dual spirits gathered around. Some thanked Hikaru before quietly leaving, and he didn't stop them. Not all dual monster spirits had either the courage to fight or the qualifications to duel. Most dual spirits were simply residents of the spirit world. Becoming a warrior wasn't that easy. Still, many stayed behind, hoping to lend Hikaru their strength. Among them, one being a Assault Corps. Besides that, he saw cards from VW and XYZ, though only the spirit of Y-Dragon Head was in the lab. Hikaru also spotted Ancient Gear Hunting Hound and Ancient Gear Howitzer. These 2 cards were a pleasant surprise. Until now, Hikaru had never obtained a Hunting Hound or a double Hunting Hound. Especially double and triple Hunting Hounds, those Ancient Gear cards belonged exclusively to the Fusion Army. As a so-called heretic, he had no chance of getting them through official channels. On the other hand, Ancient Gear Howitzer was truly something. He examined Howitzer's effect closely. Yes, it was the Zero Edition version, even better. The original version had a once-per-turn effect that inflicted damage to the opponent equal to 1,000 times the number of face-up spell cards on your field. But the Zero Edition only dealt 1,000 damage per turn. Still, though the Zero Edition's damage was nerfed, it required no equip cards and came with full immunity right out of the gate, unaffected by other cards' effects. Even more, if destroyed by battle, it could special summon an Ancient Gear monster from the deck, ignoring summoning conditions. What else could that be but Ancient Gear Golem? Not bad at all. In fact, this card's fantastic. Hikaru was quite pleased. Its best feature? Extremely lax fusion materials, just any 2 Ancient Gear monsters. With such loose summoning conditions, top-tier immunity, and the ability to summon Ancient Gear Golem upon being destroyed, this card made going first a huge defensive advantage. And if he activated Ancient Gear Duel, he could fuse that fielded Ancient Gear Golem with materials from the graveyard to summon Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. Summoning difficulty and follow-up costs were dramatically reduced. Truly, a great find. After studying Morishima's deck for a while, Hikaru cheerfully packed up. Then, he turned back to the spirits. Leading them, a Assault Corps drove its treads forward and stopped before Hikaru. Greetings, human warrior. Hello, Assault Corps. Hikaru returned the greeting. He then asked generally what had happened. Assault Corps explained simply, one day, a group of humans had suddenly appeared in the spirit world. At first, the spirits didn't mind. After all, they'd long since left the machine homeland dimension and were curious about other dimensions. Perhaps someday they could return. However, that group of humans suddenly attacked, catching the spirits off guard. They were swiftly overwhelmed, and many spirits were captured. These captured spirits were being held in the lab, used as both fuel for the sacred beasts and test subjects for the human researchers. Hikaru looked toward the Union Doctor. Speak, the Union Doctor lowered his head in fear. You should understand, if you want to live, you'd better explain what you're doing here. Hikaru pointed at the machines. Come clean now, contact Kaiba Corp, and you might just be arrested. Refuse, and there's only one fate for you. He gestured toward the surrounding spirit machines. They had quite a lot they wanted to catch up on with him. Cold sweat poured down the Union Doctor's face like a waterfall, while he gritted his teeth and said nothing. Even if the spirits attacked now, it didn't matter. As long as that wasn't found, the professor could retrieve it later. Don't kid yourself. The professor was my savior. Funny how none of you cared about morals until now. The doctor shrank further under the pressure. Just as he was determined to resist and protect the lab's greatest secret, Tiara suddenly went, "Oh." Hikaru turned at once. "What is it?" "Hikaru, this isn't something a few boxes of cup noodles can get you. So, when we get back, I want you to create a low-level Infernoid monster card for me." Hikaru frowned. "A single Infernoid? That's huge. What kind of secret would prompt Tiara to name a condition like that?" Her resurrection, in reality, came from the combined power of all Infernoids and the shell. In card terms, aside from her main form, Tiara, there was also a temporary revival form, Infernoid Tiara, which required the fusion of over 10 Infernoid monsters to summon. In other words, a single low-level Infernoid could count as 1/10 of her card material. 1/10 of a resurrection. And it was the first time Tiara had ever made such a demand. Then again, if she was asking for something that big, the lab's secret had to be massive. While she had been pretty cooperative with him lately, Hikaru never forgot Tiara was not a purely benevolent god. She was a ruthless deity who wanted to reset the ecosystem. He wavered, weighing his options. After a while, he figured he could try. After all, it was just one, and Tiara would need at least 10 cards as materials. Using one opportunity to assess her attitude toward cooperation might be worth it. "Fine. If the secret is convincing enough, I'll help you." Tiara chuckled softly. "Don't worry." She raised her staff. Countless puppet strings whirled out, smashing various equipment in the lab. Then the strings burrowed under the lever the doctor had desperately tried to pull earlier, writhing and searching. "Wait, no, can we talk this out?" Realizing Tiara had likely found it, the Union doctor panicked and turned to the machines. "Now. Are you joking?" Hikaru had already agreed to this price, he wasn't in the mood for nonsense. As he watched Tiara work, she suddenly brightened, yanked the strings, and pulled out a glowing red card from deep within the lab. The card floated and landed before Hikaru. He glanced at it, then froze, eyes widening. He looked up at the doctor. "You even got your hands on this card. Where the hell did you find it?" The doctor's face was ashen. He didn't even dare to reply. The professor's most important experimental target had been found. "I figured from the start they were trying to create artificial spirits," Tiara shrugged. "Though I didn't expect this to be the goal. Don't forget our deal. Without me, you wouldn't have found this card in 1,000 years. Hikaru stared at the card in his hand, the blood-red magical armor, the black skin, the long white hair. Only one thought remained in his mind. Forget the dark hex-sealed fusion, let me enjoy a few days dueling with this card first. Why? Simple, this was a legendary, no mythical level rare card in this world. Not one of a kind, but so rare no one would part with it. Dark Magician. Who would still care about hex-sealed fusion after this? Not to mention, he'd originally wanted hex-sealed fusion just to replace this card. If he traded this card away, others would probably be willing to offer hundreds or thousands of hex-sealed fusions in exchange. Chapter 124, A New Name in the Book. Dark Magician is considered a mythic-level rare card in this world, comparable in fame to the Egyptian gods. After all, it's the ace card of the original king of games, Yugi Muto. Precisely because of that significance, even though Dark Magician isn't the rarest card per se, far outclassed in rarity by Dark Magician Girl, Blue Eyes White Dragon, and the recently discovered Crystal Beasts, its card value is by no means any less than those top-tier rarities. More importantly, since King of Games Yugi Muto has transitioned into card design, all remaining Dark Magician copies have become collector's items in every sense. The ones still in circulation among duelists are now the scarcest of the scarce. Even if someone wanted to make a replica, there's nowhere to do it. In other words, this one's the real deal. Tiara exclaimed in astonishment upon hearing Hikaru's explanation. But why does the artwork look different from the promo posters we saw before? They're all Dark Magician, but some are labeled Legendary Magician, while others are just standard Dark Magician, Hikaru muttered, flipping through the cards. This alternate art version. I don't know where they sourced it, though, since they're trying to create an artificial spirit from this dark magician. That must mean that originally, this card had no spirit, it was just an ultra-rare collector's piece. Hikaru remembered that in the earliest Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, Yugi once dueled a magician named Arcana, who also wielded a dark magician. His dark magician would even occasionally react to him. But this one in Hikaru's hand felt completely devoid of soul. The Union Doctor was seized by two robots. Hikaru hesitated a moment before approaching A Assault Corps to ask what their next move would be. Headquarters has been contacted. A Assault Corps acknowledged Hikaru's question, then elaborated further. First of all, as recompense for their torment, there was no way they would let these humans go. They also needed to interrogate them to find out which dimension the other Union machine inhabitants had been taken to. Beyond that, since Hikaru was their rescuer, if he wished to take them into custody, they could reluctantly agree, as a favor to their benefactor. No need. I'm fine either way. But please check first to see if anyone's been brainwashed. Don't punish everyone wholesale. Understood. Hikaru had also considered how to handle them. Letting them go was out of the question. Either they would be kept as baggage under Leo Akaba's watch, or they wouldn't be released at all. After all, if these people survived, they'd just become accomplices again. Unless they were sent straight to prison, releasing them was a non-starter. Still, the period of contact between humans and other dimensions had been short, and although Kaiba Corp had crafted many special Kaiba Corp laws, those mostly apply to duelists. Seto Kaiba had always been that way, disinterested in anything outside dueling. To him, someone without a deck might not even count as a resident. This is, after all, the man who declared, anyone with fewer than 40 cards must leave Domino City. In other words, the rules currently followed by the majority regarding interactions with other worlds are really just accumulated tacit understandings over the years. Some stem from mistakes in spirit interactions, while others stem from the havoc wrought by lunatic humans. For example, spirit research is technically taboo, but what exact punishment it carries remains unclear. Right now, Hikaru's best course is to have the local spirits detain them, and whether it's a cryochamber or a spirit world prison, it should be done under local spirit laws and regulations. That way, if questioned later, Kaiba Corp can always respond with something like, if you lost to a spirit in a duel, you must face the consequences. Afterward, he would coordinate with Chaz to prepare for what comes next. Chaz had already shown a strong interest in this subject, so collaborating would align with his current goals. Hikaru asked A Assault Corps to handle the nearby computers. As a machine-type spirit, it had no trouble scanning an unprotected network for data. Unfortunately, Hikaru didn't have any Cybers cards, otherwise, they could have extracted even more valuable intel. He had A Assault Corps delete all recordings, especially any footage of super polymerization fusing the three sacred beasts. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't bother covering his tracks, but the traces of super polymerization? Those were stuff he absolutely didn't want others to see. Then he did another sweep to check for any intel on other dimensional research facilities within this lab. Sadly, he found nothing. It was evident that each research facility operated independently, likely for confidentiality. So cautious, that egg-headed freak, Hikaru muttered with a frown. Master, A Assault Corps rolled back to Hikaru as he pondered his next move. Headquarters has issued a new directive. What is it? Regardless of whether your friend wins or loses, you and he shall be considered our greatest allies. Hikaru nodded. Also, please open your alchemic grimoire. Hearing that, Hikaru blinked in surprise, then carefully retrieved the emerald book he'd been guarding, opened it, and flipped through the pages. You guys know about this book, too? The legendary alchemic grimoire of the peerless alchemist, A Assault Corps beeped. It said that once you forge a contract through it, messages can be left within, enabling communication across dimensions. Hikaru nodded. He had already heard about it from the Golden Idol. The Golden Lord of the Golden Land, a lich in that world, could hear Banner's voice even from his own dimension. That's because Banner could communicate with anyone bound by contract through the book. Back then, it was through this method that Captain Gold was sent to the human world when Banner called for aid. However, because each interdimensional coordinate had been labeled as a subject by Banner, Hikaru hadn't been able to contact anyone. Until now. Hikaru drew a rune in the air. Green alchemic symbols floated up as a assault core transmitted an electrical signal into the glyph. A grand voice echoed out, "Thank you for rescuing our people." An image appeared in the book. It was A2Z Dragon Buster Cannon. And on its image was an elaborate three-dimensional pattern, clearly this dimension's coordinate seal. Whoa! Hikaru marveled. Literally the combined form of all Union machines from A to Z. No wonder this dimension's strongest spirit was it. This was a truly powerful monster card, one that boasted the triple negate effect. When the opponent activates a monster, spell, or trap card, discard one card is cost to negate and destroy that activation. Unfortunately, it looked like its spirit power was being suppressed by the sacred beasts. Otherwise, with strength rivaling Hammon, it might have rescued the inhabitants itself. Warrior of humanity, its voice came from the emblem. Henceforth, in all matters regarding this faction, you may contact us freely. We shall assist from the sidelines. Our treads and cannons shall battle them to the death. So this is how Professor Banner had formed pacts and communication across spirit worlds? A smile crept onto Hikaru's face. The first contact. Thank you, A2Z Dragon Buster Cannon. He closed the book and was about to head back to Chaz to check on his progress when Tierra's voice chimed in again. Hold up, we should dismantle their dimensional gate too. That's all usable material. Ah, right. Time to shear the sheep dry. Chapter 125, The Disruptor's Final Assault. When Amaki Hikaru returned to the Princeton Group's teleportation gate, the duel had reached an intense climax. No, to be more precise, Chaz was already at his wit's end. Chaz, LP, 300. Across from him, X-Head Cannon, LP, 3500, still had nearly full life points. On top of that, X-Head Cannon had VW Tiger Catapult and B-Buster Drake on the field. The only silver lining, X-Head Cannon also had 3 bizarre-looking Ojama tokens on his field. It appeared Chaz had used Ojama trap cards to special summon 3 Ojama tokens to X-Head Cannon's field, and with his zones clogged, this was the only configuration X-Head Cannon could summon. Even so, Chaz himself only had 2 defense position monsters remaining, Ojama Green and Ojama Black. Both monsters had 0 attack and only 1000 defense. Beep! X-Head Cannon's eyes flashed red. VW Monster Effect. Discard 1 card to change the battle position of one opponent's monster. Discarding Z Metal Tank. Activating Monster Effect, change Ojama Green to attack position. Ah! The one-eyed monster with its tongue sticking out had been crouched in defense, but now quivered in terror as the VW unit pointed its cannon at it. Shaking and puffing itself up, it tried to muster courage. Ha ha, that's it. Looks like this is the end. Slade laughed from the sidelines. In the end, Chaz had miraculously survived over 10 turns using only 0 ATK monsters. Though he hadn't been able to counterattack, the fact he held on this long was starting to frustrate the beginner who didn't understand dueling. While his only offense had shaved 500 LP from X-Head Cannon using monster effects, Chaz's stubbornness was aggravating. Battle! VW Tiger Catapult, attack Ojama Green. Wah! Ojama Green ran in circles, panicking on the field. Chaz clenched his fist in tension. But just then, he shouted out, "Don't be afraid. I activate the trap card, Wabaku. This turn, my monsters can't be destroyed by battle, and I take no battle damage." Boom! The blast thundered toward Ojama Green, who shut his eyes awaiting doom. However, the fire never struck. Opening his eyes, he saw a graceful woman had appeared before him, shielding him from harm. X-Head Cannon paused mid-attack, lowering its arm. Impressive defense. Human warrior, even with 0 ATK monsters, you endured nearly every attack for more than 10 turns. In this dimension, perhaps no warrior is stronger than you. It noticed Hikaru arriving among the spectators as a flicker of data flashed through its gaze, recognizing him as the duelist who rescued the Union machines. Yet, it didn't shift focus, continuing to glare at Chaz. Still, pure defense only leads to exhaustion. If you cannot strike back, I will never acknowledge you as a true duelist. What X-Head Cannon admired was only one thing: all-out offense. Humph, a direct attacker deck, huh? Good. That's my favorite style too. Chaz roared. TZZZ, turn end. Unlike Hikaru, who had just arrived, the livestream audience had watched the whole duel. Now, hearing Chaz shout that slogan, those opposed to the Academy buyout looked deeply worried. Aggressive offense? No way, a student screamed. He's been turtling this whole time, barely hanging on with just 300 LP. That's barely a flicker of life. Even if he survives again, VW's effect will trigger next turn. Those past wins of his must have all been company-backed, right? Another student cried in despair. Don't say that. Chaz's strength is real. Jaden shouted. If we lose, are we even Obelisk Blue students anymore? Will we become Slade's dorm instead? Will Slifer Red be renamed Lightning Dorm? What? Hearing that, Jaden jumped. No. That can't happen. Chaz, hang in there. You mustn't lose. Though he never believed Chaz would lose, he cheered even louder now. Hearing him, the classmates realized the gravity of the situation and joined in. That said, Chaz couldn't hear them as he wiped the sweat from his brow and stood tall. From childhood, he'd won countless beginner and intermediate tournaments, earning praise and applause. Yet, few truly recognized him. Peers thought he leaned on family connections, his brothers believed this level of achievement was expected, no one acknowledged his effort or sweat. Everyone saw it as either luck or shortcuts. In his desperation to prove himself, he went beyond an extreme, entering Duel Academy to prove he could shine without family aid, only to lose to Jaden in his first class duel and began to doubt his path. After training for months with Kaiba Corp AIs, he returned to re-challenge Jaden, only to find Jaden had not only lost to others, becoming the second duelist, but was laughing and joking with the one who beat him. So this is what it means to be a duelist? Even after losing, bonds remain? Even in defeat, he never saw Jaden as weak. When he challenged Hikaru, he lost again. And that line, I gaze upon the end of fusion. But your eyes see only Jaden. It woke him up completely. His pride and vision should not be shallow. Victory alone was never enough. A duelist has no limits. Even a bunch of 0 ATK weaklings can win. My turn. Drawl. He glanced at his new card. I normal summon Ojama Yellow in attack position. Ojama Yellow, level 2 Light Beast 0 ATK. He went with attack position at this point? Looks like you gave up, Slade laughed. Maybe you should wear that monster's costume and become an entertainment duelist. You might be popular. Brother Slade, watch closely. Chaz's eyes blazed. For a duelist, nothing is impossible. When Ojama Yellow, Ojama Green, and Ojama Black are all on the field, something amazing happens. I activate the spell card Ojama Delta Hurricane. When I control all three Ojamas, destroy all cards my opponent controls. What? Slade's eyes bulged. Those weaklings had that kind of hidden power? Go, Ojamas. Yes, boss. The three Ojamas leapt up, fused into a twister, and swept the field, destroying all of X-Head Cannon's cards. The Ojama tokens on your field were special summoned by my trap card Ojama Trio. When they're destroyed, you take 300 damage per token. That's 900 total. X-Head Cannon, LP, 3,500 2,400. Isn't that still useless? A student muttered. Ojamas only have 0 ATK. As if predicting their thoughts, Chaz shouted. You fools! I switch Ojama Black to attack position and activate the spell card Shield and Sword. All face-up monsters swap their attack and defense. Ojama Yellow, Green, and Black each had 1,000 defense, meaning now, they each had 1,000 ATK. The trio struck dramatic poses as muscle exploded from their scrawny bodies. Wah! Slade was dumbfounded. That's it. Genius. Chaz realized, the rules don't restrict defense. Just swap it. Amazing. Chaz is seriously the real deal. Once again seeming to hear their voices, Chaz roared. It's 100. Chaz it up. Every student watching the duel shouted his catchphrase in unison. Chaz raised his hand, pointing forward. Ojamas, attack X-head cannon. Beautiful. Hikaru was the first to applaud among those present. After all, this duel may have been even harder than the one against Slade in the original. Drawl. After the duel ended, cheerful victory music played from X-head cannon. Clearly, it was satisfied with the final battle. Destroying all cards and launching a direct attack, this was the thrill of all-out attack. Chaz exhaled in relief. He had won. He had finally lived up to his teachers' and classmates' expectations. Chapter 126, Observation. ZZZ. A soft static sound leaked from the interdimensional stream. Chaz watched as X-head cannon lost to him, letting out a long sigh. He seemed a bit dejected, yet somehow also relieved. Excited, Chaz high-fived Hikaru, then turned toward the camera and, as if on cue, began shouting his slogan, spouting dramatic lines about defending the school. Chaz's most defining trait was his unrelenting Chuyuni spirit, and he pulled it off in an oddly charming way. In front of a massive screen, a voice rang out, "Switch it." "Brother? You're done watching?" But those spirits were just exchanging fire with Chaz and the others. "Poof." The voice snorted. "At this point, the cannon fire is meaningless." "Understood." A slightly shorter figure stepped up to the massive television and pressed a button. The screen split first 2 images, then 4, then 8, until dozens of tiny screens covered the entire display. Seated directly opposite the screen, dressed in a billowing white uniform, a man swept his gaze over the many fragmented scenes. He was the strongest active duelist in the world, the most brilliant mind alive, the one who created the system for dimensional travel, Kaiba Corp's highest authority, Seto Kaiba. As he surveyed the many discovered alternate dimensions, his face remained expressionless, yet thoughts raced through his mind. "Brother, about what Chaz said earlier. Regarding Leo Akaba." "Leo Akaba, huh?" Seto Kaiba opened his eyes, evidently interested enough to comment. "As a scientist, he's no amateur. But as a duelist? He's still far too lacking." Makuba knew his brother's style well. Kaiba didn't care about research prowess, what mattered to him was the strength shown in a duel. So he wasn't surprised. But it seems like Leo Akaba is up to something dangerous. Duelists settle things through duels. Kaiba glanced at the deck beside him, his most valued possession, never leaving his side. And if Chaz has made his choice, let them do as they will. Though his tone remained flat, Makuba could tell his brother was quite pleased with Chaz's performance today. More importantly, what about the trace of the Dark Magician girl? Ah! Makuba instantly caught his meaning and pulled up the relevant intel. According to interviews with Duel Academy instructors, the Dark Magician girl did appear on the island for a certain time. Based on our Kaiba Corp research, she's definitely a spirit of a card. That said, she didn't seem to have any agenda, she just participated in the school festival with the students for fun. After that, she vanished without a trace. He then scrolled through an electronic notebook. From the sequence of events, it seems that first-year Zamaki Hikaru and Bastion Misawa later found coordinates to the village of spellcasters, likely a lead from the Dark Magician girl. He shook his head. "Brother, she must have come from there." Kaiba nodded. Though that spellcaster spirit girl seemed a bit unreliable, she was a top-tier magician. Naturally, she'd have ways to cover her tracks. Kaiba nodded again. He now had a general grasp of the situation as he leaned back into the couch. Kaiba said nothing. Makuba, taking the hint, turned off all the displays and restored the original stream. On screen, Chaz was already shaking hands with X-head cannon, excitedly accepting a card and chatting with the robot spirits. And then, Chaz turned around dramatically to face his elder brother and proclaimed that he would seize the helm of the Princeton group soon. Hearing this, Kaiba opened his eyes. Makuba, still watching the screen, laughed in exasperation. "Huh, does he really need to copy you and everything?" Seto Kaiba chuckled too. Makuba glanced at his brother in surprise. Was he genuinely happy? Interesting. Kaiba stood up. Seems the Duel Academy curriculum is far too easy. Ha! Makuba, get ready. It's time to give them some extra coursework. Oh. Got it, brother. He understood immediately. Precisely because Kaiba was pleased with his students' growth, he planned to turn up the pressure by sending special duelists to the island for field demonstrations. I'll get on it right away. Kaiba didn't reply before Makuba hastily exited the room, a place only the brothers were allowed to enter. Seto Kaiba fell silent, deep in thought. Seeing his younger brother finally able to stand on his own brought him real joy. He'd once worried, if he truly reached the afterlife, what would become of this world? He had opened Pandora's box. To him, it wasn't such a big deal. But to the world, interdimensional travel may have come too soon. Yet his brother's growth pleased him deeply, and the student he once dismissed as mediocre had finally begun to understand himself. Perhaps, in the not-so-distant future, he could truly entrust this world to others. Only that. He couldn't help but wonder. Why had Chaz grown so fast? He hadn't faced life or death. Hadn't lost family or friends. So, how had he matured so rapidly? Kaiba turned back toward a feed he had previously ignored. Oh. That student was that Amaji Hikaru? Chatting with Chaz like old friends? Kaiba knew all about Chaz Princeton's upbringing under scrutiny. For someone to befriend him meant that Amaki Hikaru truly didn't care about social standing. Kaiba himself didn't believe in the concept of friendship, but he also understood. There are some things that only experience can change. Then he recalled something else. Last year, Kajimaro had proposed that young duelists participate in cross-dimensional exchange duels. He'd approved the idea. Among the participants was this very student. A duelist who used the purest fusion deck ever known. It was just a youth tournament, but the unshakable belief shown by the duelist had left an impression. At the top of his year, a firm believer in fusion is the noblest summoning method, opposing the impure fusion army. No wonder Chaz had changed. He suddenly noticed a detail in Hikaru's file. Black Luster Soldier? Most people thought it was just a rare card, but someone of Kaiba's level knew that card couldn't be drawn by luck. Fascinating. Seems that school is far more interesting than he thought. Chapter 127, Evil. The exploration team returned to the human world. Though Slade Princeton was a complete amateur at dueling, he wasn't some abstract villain. Naturally, he would honor the promise made with his younger brother. If anything, once he came to his senses and realized just how close to death he'd been in the spirit world, he even felt a bit relieved and shaken. The Duel Monsters world was deeper and more dangerous than he'd thought, not something he could easily handle. Still, his brother had dared challenge his authority on a broad livestream. Slade wasn't going to pretend he hadn't heard that. Chaz better prepare himself, he would make him regret those words. And with that, Chaz Princeton became the hero who saved the academy, instantly showered with praise from countless classmates as all the prior whispers and criticisms quickly quieted down. In no time at all, Chaz became the hottest name on campus, achieving a triple success in academics, cards, and reputation. However, he didn't let the excitement get to his head, he promptly calmed down. Chaz hadn't forgotten the most meaningful friend who had helped him change and reach this point. When they exchanged information, and Chaz heard about the many Union machines being dismantled and transformed, he was furious. If he hadn't been forced to fight spirit duels against his brother at the time, he would have joined Hikaru in the action. After returning to the academy, he didn't follow Jaden around like usual. He now had his own goal, to become the heir of the Princeton group. And for that, he had much to prepare. Not just in dueling, after all, both his older brothers were dueling amateurs. If he wanted it to be fair, he needed to show talent in other areas, too, such as business. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a fair contest. Of course, he also guessed his brothers would soon start recruiting outstanding duelists to prepare for his challenge. As for Hikaru, who had returned to the human world, he had a lot more to do. First of all, from the Fusion Army's laboratory, he had acquired a large amount of dimensional gate materials. Though they were scientific branch teleportation components, many were also shared with the alchemy branch materials. This saved Hikaru a lot of time and made constructing the teleportation gate easier. Having used the Princeton Group's model of a dimensional gate once already, Hikaru couldn't claim 100% confidence, but he was at least 90% sure. All that remained was construction and testing. And on the other side. Ha 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 ha. Tiara floated beside Hikaru, giggling while rubbing her cheek against a card. The nearby dual spirits all stood frozen. Spirits like Flame Swordsman, Dark Flare Knight, and Captain Crystal, the veteran members, looked on in disbelief, doubting their own eyes. Was that strange and dangerous deity actually happy? Having just joined the workshop and behaving quite dutifully, Assault Core buzzed while lifting 2 huge boulders to embed into the dimensional gate structure with lasers. It turned and beeped curiously. Wasn't it just Winda? Was it really worth this much shock? Tiara, after a long bout of glee, noticed the spirits staring and coughed lightly, returning to her usual faint smile. But the upturned corners of her mouth still betrayed her excitement. Inside Hikaru's alchemy furnace, countless machines and computers were being consumed. Hikaru wiped sweat from his brow, grateful he'd cleared out that lab, otherwise, he wouldn't have had nearly enough materials. This round of alchemy had gone exceedingly well. No, to be precise, failure wasn't even an option. In previous attempts, Hikaru had to worry about card crafting failures or wasted materials. But this time, with Tiara assisting, the process was essentially her power being extracted, given physical form, and sealed into card form. The only missing piece was a container. Tiara extended her hand. In her palm, bright white metal gathered. A fully metallic lifeform took shape, red-eyed, ram-horned, clawed, with steel bat wings and a white tube apparatus on its back, gently dancing in her hand. It had a fearsome name, Permise. That's right. It was a fragment of Tiara's power, a shard of Tiara herself, Infernoid Permise. With its creation, Tiara's revival in another form became truly possible. One day in the future, she may return completely as a god within dual cards. Hikaru understood this was a very dangerous prospect. But it was something he'd agreed on with Tiara long ago. There was no turning back. How wonderful, Amaki Hikaru! Tiara softly withdrew her hand, the mechanical demon dispersing into white light. She turned back, face beaming with joy. As my divine envoy, well done. Hikaru shrugged. Tiara had always called him things like Chosen One or Divine Heir, though it usually seemed more like manipulation than sincerity. This time felt different. This time, she actually sounded sincere. And it wasn't just Hikaru's imagination. To Tiara, she was genuinely growing more and more satisfied with Hikaru. Even though their time together was just a blink in her long existence, Hikaru had given her many surprises. And now, he had truly fulfilled his promise and created a new card for her. Of course, Tiara had long noticed that Hikaru remained extremely wary of her. He feared what this god might do to humanity. To those who knew the history of the DT planet, his fear was justified. After all, Tiara's past actions essentially amounted to planetary extinction. She was no friend of humanity. But to Tiara, those concerns were meaningless. She only cared about the DT planet. Other worlds? They held no interest for her. What she wanted was to reset the DT planet's ecosystem, not meddle in anything else. Just that. Only that. That was the pride of a god. Of course, she would never explain such thoughts to a mere human. In her mind, she had all the time in the world. As long as she stayed with Hikaru, she could wait for her rebirth. What she didn't expect was how satisfying Hikaru turned out to be. So now, she genuinely wanted to make him her divine servant. I can't let you work for nothing, Tiara thought for a moment. All right, here. She reached out her hand. At some point, she had taken a blank card. It was entangled with purple puppet strings. Before long, the card emitted a faint violet glow. Looks like that's the limit, she pouted. Only one component, still too weak. Anyway, do your best to complete this card yourself, Tiara said casually, placing it delicately in Hikaru's hand. Hikaru blinked, examining the card. Its artwork was blurred. The text was sparse. It was just like the first time he had received Winda. It was El Shaddal Wendigo, a wind attribute Shaddal deity. Chapter 128, The Pro Duel Circuit. Compared to when he first received Winda, Hikaru wasn't nearly as excited when he saw Wendigo. It wasn't just because of the card's power. He admitted that Wendigo's effect was a bit underwhelming, fewer effects than Winda, to be sure. However, 2,800 defense and granting battle destruction protection against special summon monsters was still decent support for Winda. What really made the difference was the timing. Hikaru now had a card list packed with fusion pairings, Dragon Destroyer, Dracoequist, the ABCs, Infernoids, and even the newly acquired Armatile the Chaos Phantom. His options and themes were overflowing. In game terms, it was like once he had only one side quest outside the main story. Now he had a dozen, all with promising rewards. But time and energy were still finite. So Hikaru had to choose a few to pursue. Fortunately, things were also different now. Back when he first got the Winda card, he had no options, no leads. It was pure luck whether he could complete Winda. Now, Hikaru understood clearly, participating in shadow duels, dueling with DT archetype decks, and crafting cards of the DT world would all charge Shaddal cards. So that made things much simpler. He could work on Gem Knights while charging Wendigo. And thanks to Kaiba Corp's Tuner Monster Test program at Duel Academy, many students now have DT series cards as well. Things like Mist Valley and Drag Unity. Even if he couldn't synchro summon, these cards had good stats compared to most in circulation, which meant Hikaru had plenty of targets to farm. Within just 10 or so days, Hikaru, with higher spirit power and enhanced alchemy, had nearly completed Wendigo's card in a fraction of the time it took for Winda. The efficiency was off the charts. The Polymerization Club had practically gone radio silent after the adjustment pack incident. Though they still tried recruiting new members occasionally, they were clearly hands-off now. Aside from parading Cyrus around for publicity, they had no other real presence. That was a good thing. As long as they didn't stir trouble, their reputation might even recover. After all, if they didn't act, they couldn't mess up. Everyone had their own studies and business. Without them actively intruding, people naturally started forgetting them. First years even thought Hikaru had always been the face of the Fusion Club. In this peaceful environment, the Fusion Club hosted a special celebration today. Congratulations! Hikaru pulled a party popper and shouted. Congrats, Selena! Well done, Selena! Usually cold and expressionless, the girl was red-faced and awkward under the celebration. Jaden laughed and pushed a tray of tempura her way. Didn't expect you to actually pass that test. I was sweating bullets watching. It's all thanks to Sensei and Professor Misawa's teaching. Selena, uncharacteristically, stumbled over her words. Selena, we only helped you study. You passed because of your own effort, Bastion shook his head. Selena lived in the girls' dorms at Duel Academy and spent most of her time at the Fusion Club. Still, that didn't mean she had nothing else to do. Hikaru and the others still had classes and sometimes went on dimensional excursions. In her spare time, Selena had to go through makeup lessons and evaluations. As certified exam experts, Hikaru and Bastion would sometimes help her revise, and even Chaz dropped by to help now and then. Jaden, of course, was mostly there for morale. Growler had negotiated with Kaiba Corp. If Selena could pass Duel Academy's entrance exams and jump to first year, she wouldn't have to return to junior high. She could stay on the island. Yesterday, this former illiterate took the exam. Though barely passing, her score was still respectable. Next term, she would enter Duel Academy as a first year with the new students, officially becoming a junior of Hikaru and the others. Right, Selena, Hikaru nodded, impressed. In just 6 months, you learned what normally takes 2 years, that's all your effort. No amount of our help could replace that. Hearing him not take any credit, Selena clenched her fists, regaining her usual fire. No, it's because you're a great teacher. When I think of mastering fusion, I get fired up every day. She was fired up. Oh hoo. Nice. Jaden fired up, too. Then shouldn't we duel? He glanced around. Wait, where's Kaiser? Hearing him, Atticus, teetering under a pile of gifts, poked his head out. Zane just finished his paperwork. He's about to enter his first pro match before graduation. Already? The students were shocked. He's going pro before graduation. Dimitri nearly fell over, only saved by a classmate catching him. Zane's amazing. Jaden exclaimed. A prominent sponsor took interest in him, Atticus explained, setting down the gifts. He's endorsing their product. I think they handle dimensional dueling tech. Because of Zane, Hikaru, and Chaz's performance this year, Duel Academy's visibility has skyrocketed. People started noticing top students like Zane. Apparently, Kaiba Corp is organizing exchange visits too. Mr. Makuba himself is handling it. No wonder Kaiser Zane can do what no one else can. Still, we gotta give props to Hikaru. His fusion slogan probably reached other dimensions by now. Chaz too. Hey! What do you mean Chaz too? Chaz instantly turned, pointing accusingly. Fusion Club members weren't surprised by Atticus's report. It was expected. Oh, by the way, Atticus continued, any of you want to duel Zane in his graduation duel? As third years, you can submit applications to challenge him. He picks the opponent, it's like a final academic duel. Maybe a way for seniors to pass the torch? He chuckled. Ha, if I hadn't vanished for a year, I might have picked a cute junior to duel. Graduation duel. Jaden froze. Graduation. He suddenly looked dazed. Slumped back into his seat, stunned. This past half year, though Zane was often busy prepping for his future, he still dueled Jaden often in the Fusion Club, helping hone his skills. Despite their age gap, the two had become close friends. But Jaden had never thought about this one thing. Parting. Jaden. Hikaru raised his hand. We still have a month. Think about it before then. He had no intent to fight Zane for the graduation duel. He knew Jaden would want that match more than anyone. He wouldn't take it from him. Instead, let's focus on what Atticus said about the sponsors and pro duelists visiting. Oh yeah. After a brief moment of daze, Jaden immediately perked up. Even Selena, who usually charged in recklessly, couldn't help but whisper. Jaden Senpai really loves dueling. Chapter 129, Who's Dueling Who? The exchange event hosted by Kaiba Corp at Duel Academy was soon launched under the efforts of the faculty, with Sito Kaiba himself attending to give the opening speech. Duel Academy is a school dedicated to training duelists, but it has always had a moderate flaw: the future career paths of its graduates. They can't exactly guarantee job placements. After all, duelists are duelists, their career ultimately hinges on dueling. And good wine fears no alley, yet even if a graduate is competent, most don't know what to do next. Especially with the intense competition in the pro duelist circuit, jumping in right after graduation is a huge mental challenge. In the past, the academy supported whatever paths the students chose. Now, with Kaiba Corp willing to initiate what is essentially a recruitment fair, it's the biggest improvement to the academy's development in years. Apologies, student. Our company's recent focus is dimensional development. It seems your physical parameters are not suited for high-intensity dimensional dueling. Ah, student, you have level 5 spirit compatibility? Would you like to consider joining our All Spirits International? The most sought-after talents were still duelists with high spirit compatibility. Though dimensional exploration hadn't yielded huge results yet, everyone knew it was destined to be one of the most attractive ventures for years, decades, even centuries to come. And discovering anything groundbreaking in another dimension could lead to overnight riches and global fame. Furthermore, companies that ignored dimensional ventures would be labeled as unambitious by assessment organizations, their stock value would tank, and they'd lose investor interest. Naturally, Amaki Hikaru, who was only a first year yet already had spirit compatibility of 6 stars, was spotted immediately by sharp-eyed recruiters and swarmed in an instant. "You're Amagi Hikaru, right? Your duel against the interdimensional duelist earlier this year really lifted our world's morale. Your performance was perfect. Amagi Hikaru, you're a fusion duelist, correct? Are you interested in checking out our company, Fusion Motors? Amaki Hikaru, do you have future plans for your studies? Would you consider interning with us? Here's our business card." He was in no time crowded, unable to even move. "Ha ha, Hikaru, looks like you're popular, huh?" Tiara, unbothered by the chaos, even offered suggestions. "Quick, see if anyone's selling cup noodles. I bet instant fusion ramen would be a hit." She wasn't just joking, it was part of her divine scheming. As a god known for cunning, she figured if she ate all the magical scientists' cup noodles, she'd have to wait ages for more. So why not push humanity to mass-produce them? She'd tried other instant noodles, but none beat instant fusion in flavor. If Hikaru wanted a stable income, listening to her might not be a bad idea. "What's all the noise over there?" A tall, handsome boy in a white suit had climbed a cliffside and was brushing dust from his hands. Seeing the recruiters crowding Hikaru, he raised an eyebrow. "Are they fighting over a student?" It was Aster Phoenix, he figured it out instantly. Having been through this himself, he had no strong opinion. After initial confusion, he had adapted, and with Sartorius helping him handle logistics, he didn't mind them thereafter. He glanced up and spotted a green-haired spirit chuckling. "A duelist with a spirit, huh? No wonder. Even as a student, having a spirit companion was valuable in this new era." Aster stretched his limbs. At first, he intended to visit during recruitment season. That said, with Kaibacorp hosting this event, he was invited as one of the most famous pro-duelists. He didn't mind arriving early. Officially, he was on the island as a future freshman. In fact, many heirs from prominent families were using that title to visit the island and meet the 3 students who had defeated the interdimensional threat earlier this year. Before leaving, Sartorius had performed a reading for him. The result? Certain victory. He would win any duel against students on the island. Only victory, huh? Aster looked mildly disappointed. Oh well. Before anyone noticed him, he headed toward the student area. Grabbing his massive bag, he pulled out a map, glanced at it, and put it away. Leo Akaba had made a deal with Sartorius in exchange for power from beyond this world. Sartorius asked him to investigate the Fusion Club. Following the map, Aster walked along the path. Occasionally, he asked students for directions. Hearing he was looking for the Fusion Club, they warmly guided him. "Haha, you're a visiting freshman? You came to the right place. Just turn here, and that 2-story building with the Fusion emblem is their activity room." Weird, was Leo Akaba's club really this popular? Skeptical, Aster reached the Fusion Club door. Today, few members were around. Jaden and Bastion were gone, and Hikaru had been stopped on the way. He politely greeted the members. Dimitri, half asleep from boredom, perked up when he saw the suited Aster. "Oh. Are you here to visit our Fusion Club?" "Hello, Senpai. I'm a prospective student for Duel Academy. I heard this club pursues fusion, so I'm really interested." Aster greeted him politely. "Oh. Then you came to the right place." Dimitri jumped up excitedly. "See this badge? Our president made it overnight. I heard he used some kind of gold technique alchemy. Super detailed, really pretty." He showed off a fusion-themed badge, which Aster instantly recognized. It is exquisitely crafted." Despite having seen countless trinkets, he had to admit the badge was lifelike. When he accepted it, a voice echoed in his ear. "Aster, this badge contains a faint power. It can amplify spirit energy." He asked in his mind, "Really?" "Indeed, Aster. It's subtle, but giving this to newcomers as a gift?" That president is quite generous. His pupils narrowed. Impressive, Leo Akaba. Didn't expect you to be so generous. Looks like I underestimated you. Suddenly, another voice called out. Oh, it's that guy from the Polymerization Club. Dmitri saw Cyrus Truesdale approaching and looked displeased. He had once lost to Cyrus. Though it was fair, it still stung. Even after growing a lot in the Fusion Club, part of him still held a grudge. Polymerization Club? Aster immediately analyzed and registered what he said. Got it. So that was the rival club Leo Akaba had sent him to deal with? In that case, no need for subtlety. Hey, senpai. Aster waved at Cyrus, who was looking for Jaden. I'm a new student visiting the island. May I have a duel with you? A duel? Me. Cyrus pointed at himself in confusion. Looking around and seeing no one else, he scratched his head and laughed, Has my fame already spread off campus? He was a bit flattered. Sure. So, by the time Hikaru finally broke away from the recruiters and reluctantly accepted a few business cards, he returned to find Cyrus already prepping for a duel with Aster Phoenix. He was filled with questions. Who's dueling who? Can this duel even happen? Chapter 130, The Traits of Elemental Heroes. Who's that? Seems like a new student? Probably came to the island to visit during the event. Not long after, Jaden and Bastion also returned to the Fusion Club, waving at Hikaru from afar before curiously looking towards Cyrus and Aster in the clearing. He actually challenged Cyrus to a duel? Jaden grinned. Cyrus is really strong, you know. That new guy looks kinda familiar. Bastion stroked his chin, hesitating. Huh? Somehow, he looks really familiar? Ches squinted at Aster, trying hard to recall. That's Aster Phoenix, Hikaru said plainly, not hiding anything as the others struggled to remember. Aster Phoenix? Chaz's eyes widened in shock. Wait, isn't that a pro duelist? What? A professional duelist. Not just any pro, a celebrity-tier professional duelist. Gradually, they all realized this wasn't just a simple new student interaction. On the flip side, Hikaru was also recalling what he knew about Aster. Aster Phoenix, the closest thing to a true rival in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. In a show with a different secondary protagonist for each arc, Aster stood out on his own, surpassing many characters in both skill and conviction, arguably even Jaden at one point. He debuted by almost matching Jaden in a duel with random cards bought from a shop, then later crushed the undefeated Zane Truesdale in just a few turns, and eventually defeated Jaden outright. Only when Jaden obtained his Neo-Spacian deck did he finally beat Aster, and even then, Aster remained stylish and dominant, repeatedly defeating strong opponents and teaming up with Jaden in memorable tag duels, earning Jaden's admiration. In terms of actual TCG relevance, Aster has always been a savior of hero decks, from Destiny Heroes to Vision Heroes to Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. Many builds owe their strength to his cards. His ace, Destiny Hero, Plasma, has long been a powerhouse, a serious threat even in the meta Hikaru knew before crossing worlds. The only downside? After obtaining Plasma, Aster never won again. And he's one of the few characters to appear in Arc V from a previous series. Hikaru frowned. What kind of Aster would this world have? I summoned Truckroyd in defense position and said one card, then end my turn. A cartoonish truck, like something out of a Disney animation, appeared and revved its front wheels like fists. Truckroyd, level 4 Earth Machine, 2000 def. Cyrus set his card and dramatically flicked his cape. After the likes Polymerization members and Yamaguchi had repeatedly lost, Cyrus had become the last remaining representative of the Polymerization Club. Though short, he added a large robe over his usual purple uniform and even wore a mysterious medal, making him look like some kind of commander. As Cyrus ended his turn, everyone swallowed nervously and looked toward Aster Phoenix. This was a pro duelist. Cyrus was dueling a pro before Kaiser even entered the pro circuit. At the same time, they were all dying to know what kind of deck would a pro duelist like Aster Phoenix use? Aster examined Cyrus's field and furrowed his brow in confusion. This is it? This week's setup was what gave Leo Akiba such a headache. Was Sartorius strict? Still unsure, he drew a card and glanced at it before speaking up. I activate the spell card, emergency call. Jaden blinked in surprise, then immediately perked up. It's heroes. Heroes? Chaz uncrossed his arms, taken aback. If it's a hero deck, maybe Cyrus actually stands a chance, Bastion said. Oh. A hero deck. Cyrus instantly recognized the card. Ha, newbie, then you really picked the right guy to duel. I know heroes super well. As he spoke, he even raised his nose proudly. He'd had a pretty good time in the Polymerization Club. Though timid, he was no longer bullied, and even the average soldiers of the Fusion Army didn't dare talk down to him. Plus, his dueling skills far exceeded those of a normal student, and he'd been doing quite well for himself. Of course, as Jaden's underclassman, his claim of knowing heroes wasn't a bluff. Aster looked down at his deck while thinking. So the intel checks out, this club led by Amaki Hikaru really does know all about fusion. Emergency call lets me add one elemental hero from my deck to hand. I add elemental hero Avian to my hand. What? Jaden gasped. Avian. What's the big deal? Is that hero really that good? Chaz asked Bastion, who shook his head. That card's not even available on the market. Spell card, Polymerization. I fused the Avian in my hand with Burstinatrix. Aster casually revealed the two cards and sent them to the graveyard. Fusion summon elemental hero Phoenix Enforcer. A burly, wind-winged hero quite different from Flame Wingman roared as it landed on the field, glaring down at the little truck. Elemental hero Phoenix Enforcer, level 6 Fire Warrior, 2180k. Phoenix Enforcer? Chaz asked. Isn't it supposed to be Flame Wingman? Elemental heroes have a special trait, they can fuse into different fusion monsters even with the same materials, Bastion explained, then looked to Jaden. Oh, is that how it works? What's going on? Aren't you using a hero deck? Chaz looked at Hikaru helplessly. Can you explain this? Hikaru nodded. Avian and Burstinatrix can be fused to summon a variety of elemental heroes. Besides the common Flame Wingman, there's Phoenix Enforcer, who can't be destroyed in battle, the evil hero Inferno Wing, and, depending on needs, Wind Attribute Tempest or Fire Attribute Nova Master. Jaden, don't you have all of these? Oh yeah. That's right. He'd obviously choose Flame Wingman first if possible. So that monster can't be destroyed in battle? Bastion and Chaz, already used to Jaden's inconsistencies, turned their focus to the duel. Compared to Flame Wingman, it lacks damage output, while having better defense. No, the key is the other card, Jaden coughed and tactfully shifted topics. It's Avian. That wraps up this part of What If Fusion Deck User in a Different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.